to the webcast for the Uniform Recruitment and Retention Strategies. My name is Mark Lopez. We're broadcasting from Austin, Texas at the coordinating room. First and foremost, I want to thank you all for your diligent efforts on the institution's Uniform Recruitment Strategy proposals and evaluations. In addition, thank you for participating today in broadcasting along with us. To ensure that all our institutions are up to speed for 2007-2008 URS reporting cycle, our colleagues fully understand and comprehend the URS requirements. Our goal today is to address the challenges and strategies proposed for our institutions. Two, to assist with developing effective recruitment and retention strategies to develop large-scale programs and services. Three, to assist your campus in setting realistic targets towards closing the gaps by 2015. And lastly, develop stronger and more effective means of communication with one another, you at your institution and us here at the coordinating board. I believe it is important to know that today's webcast is not in a negative light, nor should it be viewed in that way. I received a number of emails and phone calls inquiring about if campuses or individuals were in fact in trouble or going to be reprimanded for their strategies or reports. That is not the case by any means. Although there are a number of institutions that did not turn in proposals or evaluation designs, we want to ensure that we are all up to speed for the 07-08 reporting cycle. We're aware that we did not clearly communicate the need for information on the institution's target numbers for closing the gaps, how your institution's URS will assist in meeting those target numbers, or whether or not your URS is serving a wide student audience. While closing the gaps by 2015, there are several campuses that require further assistance. So to briefly go over the agenda and overview of today's webcast, we're going to address our current accountability system. Next, we're going to address our current evaluation design. Next, we will address and open the lines for questions. Then we'll get to a brief overview of the current URS as well as the proposal and evaluation assessment that was utilized here at the coordinating board. Then we'll get into timeframes and next steps of the 07-08 reporting cycle. And then I will touch on a template that institutions may utilize for the 07-08 proposals that will be due towards the end of the summer. Lastly, we will open it up for further questions and comments from the field. To briefly mention that we will be opening questions via fax as well as via email. You can reach us via email at urs@thecb.state.tx.us. Again, that's urs@thecb.state.tx.us. We will be taking those questions soon following some of our presentations, but feel free to go ahead and send us those emails. I'm going to turn it over to Glenda Barron.
Good afternoon. I'm Glenda Barron, Assistant Commissioner here at the Coordinating Board. As Mark said, we are delighted that you have joined us today. And bear with us, it's a little bit difficult doing a webcast for the first time where you don't have people in front of you. Many of us are much more comfortable when we can see our audience than we are today, where you can see the materials that we've put forward to you, but we can't actually see your faces. What I'd like to do is just kind of review with you the purpose of the URS. As you know, by state law, the Coordinating Board is charged with developing and annually updating a uniform strategy to identify, attract, retain, and enroll students that reflect the population of this state. Each institution of higher education is required to implement the uniform strategy and to report to the Coordinating Board the manner in which the institution has implemented the strategy. The board adopted the Higher Education Plan Closing the Gaps by 2015 back in October of 2000. The URS should serve as each higher ed institution's guide to helping the state reach the participation and success goals of closing the gaps. A well-educated community is vital to the state's economic success, and to the well-being of Texas is heavily dependent on what we do in higher education. To reach these two goals, enrolling 630,000 additional students and increasing the numbers of degrees and certificates awarded, it is critical that each institution continue to align its recruitment and retention strategy with the targets that it sets for moving toward closing the gaps. In addition, the institutions must continue to partner with the coordinating board to spread the message about the value of a college education, financial aid that is available, the academic and financial preparation that is necessary. Institutions must continue to form solid partnerships with area high schools and the business community, as well as create incentives and pathways for seamless student transitions among and between high schools, community and technical colleges, universities, and the health-related institutions. The state of Texas needs all of us to work toward these goals. Thank you again for joining us. I hope that you can bear with us as we do this first webcast. We're going to learn from it and be better at it. We do have opportunities for you to put questions into us if we don't cover some of the material that you need in order to do a better job. Please feel free to use either the email that Mark listed or the fax machine. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much.
Good afternoon. This is Janet Banke. I am with the Planning and Accountability section here at the Coordinating Board, and I'm going to be giving you what's basically the Accountability System 101 version. For those of you who are very familiar with accountability, this will be a rehash for the most part, but I'm hoping that those of you who haven't really had an opportunity to look at the accountability system, learn what's in there, and have some background on why it was developed the way it is, will learn something from this presentation. Back in about 2003, there was a lot of interest in accountability generally in state government and for higher education in particular. At that time, members of the coordinating board were talking about establishing something that would be like an accountability system, and members of the legislature were also discussing the same topic. Then in January 2004, Governor Perry issued an executive order that required the coordinating board and the institutions to work together on an accountability system. We started working on that right away with the universities, with the health-related institutions, and with the Texas State Technical Colleges and the Lamar State Colleges. Those were all part of the state system, so they were under the executive order from Governor Perry. The community colleges weren't actually part of that order because they are local institutions, but they realized the value of the accountability system and the likelihood that they would be required to become part of the system and perhaps have some mandates on the kinds of things that were covered. So they decided to join with us voluntarily, and they started participating in spring 2005. All of the measures that became part of the accountability system for any particular level and kind of institution were worked out carefully with those institutions and with the Council of University Presidents and Chancellors, and also on the community college side with the Association of Community Colleges. You'll notice on this slide that the structure of the accountability system mirrors that of the Closing the Gaps report. The four primary sections, participation, success, excellence, and research, are the primary topics that are addressed in Closing the Gaps. We thought it was very important that these things be carefully linked and closely linked so that the accountability system would actually be helping measure how we were doing on closing the gaps and would help everyone concentrate on those things that were the most important to help us close the gaps. In addition to those 4 measures, we've also added institutional efficiency and effectiveness measures, similar to what the LBB has in many cases. And for the health-related institutions, there's a patient care section in the accountability system. This will be a brief overview of the primary elements of accountability. We have a small number of key accountability measures. The intent of this was to keep the system focused. When we looked around at what was happening in other states, many states and actually some institutions here in Texas had lots and lots of accountability measures, and we thought that the importance of any one measure got lost in the vast number of measures. So we decided that a small number of key measures that could be easily understood by the legislature and by the public would be an excellent way to go. We also are using these same key measures for comparison with out-of-state peers. Then, in addition to the key measures, there are a number of contextual measures or explanatory measures that help point out differences between institutions. There's a much larger number of these contextual measures than there are of the original key measures for accountability. In addition, there are 2 parts that the institutions can play a role in. There are optional contextual measures that may be added by any institution. These would be new data elements if you wanted to explain something about your campus that is unique or that makes you be contrasted with others of your same type of institution. And then in addition to that, you also may add explanatory information that would help describe what's in either the key measures or the contextual measures. And when we look at the accountability system in a little while, I'll show you how institutions have used those boxes. Another important aspect of this was that we wanted it to be a system that wouldn't be an extra reporting burden on the institutions. So for the most part, we have chosen measures that can be calculated by us, that we currently collect the data for. There are very few measures where we ask the institutions to input the information. It's about 4 or 5 measures for any one type of institution. And in addition, we get a number of the measures from what the institutions report to the LBB system. Here's a breakdown of the number of key and contextual measures by type of institution, and we'll see more about that at a later date. Okay. Now, in addition to what's online, another important aspect of the accountability system are the peer groups. We've used the peer groups to discuss topics that are of importance to the institutions. For the universities, they have 5 peer groups. They're broken out based on the number of doctoral degrees awarded by the institutions and by the volume of research expenditures that those institutions receive. So you can see that we have categories for research, emerging research, doctoral institutions, comprehensive institutions, and master's institutions. The numbers beside those indicate how many institutions are in each of those groups. We also have a separate health-related institution group, a group for the Texas State Technical Colleges and the Lamar State Colleges. And finally, the community colleges are also broken into 5 groups. Those are by the size of the institution. You can see that the large and very large and small were pretty much the same size, about 8 to 10 institutions each. The medium group got very big, and so we decided we should probably divide that into 2 groups so that they would be more functional. So we have a medium A group and a medium B group. Who uses the accountability system? It's used by decision makers throughout the state and others, but the legislature often has an interest in accountability. When institutional representatives talk to the legislators at their hearings, their budget hearings particularly, they'll see that the members have their laptops or the computers open and are looking at the accountability system at the same time that their representatives are talking. We always emphasize it's very important that institutional representatives are familiar with the accountability measures and with how their institution is doing on the measures so that they can respond to any questions that they get. In addition, the university systems and some community college boards are beginning to use measures in the accountability system as a way of evaluating their key staff members. And that's something that really heightens the interest on those campuses in the accountability system. In addition, institutions often use it to see how others that they compare themselves with are doing on certain measures, and the coordinating board staff uses the system. The ways that the CV staff is using it, these examples are drawn from the university side, but similar things are going to be going on for all the types of institutions. If an institution wants to request new facilities, we'll look and see how you've done on the measures that you've said you were intending to achieve with facilities that you had prior requests for. And for each time you request facilities, you're required to say what accountability and closing the gap measure the facilities would affect. And say if you said that the measure was to improve enrollment, then we would look and see if your enrollment has indeed improved since you received new facilities money. A similar thing will be going on with program requests that are reviewed by the academic affairs staff. Then on the data and performance side, when our board meets, there are profiles in the agendas that discuss the key accountability measures for each of the institutions that has an agenda item related to it. And another type of way that the accountability system may be used is for report cards. In the last legislative session, there was a bill that was introduced and almost passed that would have required report cards, two different kinds, one for the legislators and one for the public. And we'll probably be using the measures that are in the accountability system as the primary components of those report cards, which we're going ahead with and trying to pursue. Another possible use of accountability is for incentive funding, and as you may know that there was some money made available by the governor for incentive funding. There has not been a decision made yet on how that funding will be distributed, and a committee has been formed in order to figure out how that should be distributed. Okay. I mentioned earlier the peer groups. The peer groups meet several times a year. Usually academic officers attend or institutional reporting officials attend. And at these meetings, they discuss things that are of interest to them and of importance to them in helping them close the gaps. They will talk about anything that seems particularly valuable to them. In this last round of meetings, we suggested that they discuss success measures. Each peer group has selected 2 to 3 success measures that they're concentrating on. They're sharing best practices in achieving those, in improving those measures, and they're also exploring the data and seeing what they can learn about their practices and their other peers' practices through the data that's available. Those reports will be made available to our board, and they will be discussed at our April meeting that's coming up. Now, what you've been waiting for after that long digression, we'll go to the accountability system itself, and I'll show you how to use it. The address is online, but if you can get to our main website, you'll be able to find the system, and I'll show you where it is right now. This is the Coordinating Board's main web page, thecb.state.tx.us. At this site, there are 2 ways to get to the accountability system, and I'll show you both ways. If you go to Interactive Tools here on the main page and click on that, the accountability system is the first link that you find there. Another thing I'm going to show you while we're right here is closing the gaps. This page will give you the Closing the Gaps plan. It'll give you our revised targets and other information. Each year we do a progress report, and those are all posted here too. Now, the other way to get to the accountability system is through our Texas Higher Ed data site, which is listed there under Data and Statistics, if you'll just click on that. And again, under Interactive Access to Data, you'll see the accountability system is the first line there. The second line is the Draft 2000 Community College Accountability System. The universities, health-relateds, and TSDCs and Lamar's data have all been updated for 2007. The community college data is just being run now. We've finally gotten all the institutions certified, and so if you're from a community college and want to look at your updated information, we're running it as quickly as we can and posting it on this Draft 2007 CC accountability site. We want those of you who are from community colleges to be looking at that data and sending us any comments about it that you have. But we'll just go into the main accountability link at the moment. And if I can get my mouse to go the right place, I'll show you. We have explanation about accountability at the top. Then as you scroll down, you'll see a place where you've got a FICE code and a password. If you're the institutional representative who's going to be updating your accountability measures, that's where you sign in. Then we come to the university's measures and definitions. We have similar sections for health-related, for the TSTCs and Lamar's, and for the community colleges. Following that, we have a listing of the measures and definitions that are used for out-of-state peers. The out-of-state peer information comes from the IPED system. It does not come from our data. We wanted to make sure that what's being compared is comparable, so even the measures for the Texas institutions on those sites are from IPEDs. And I'll show you that as we go down too. The next thing that you'll come to is the interactive institutional list, and you'll see the drop down. You can get information by type of institution there, and you can get it for multiple years, more years than are displayed on the accountability site. So if you choose an institution type and click Go, you'll see on the left-hand side the pluses beside both the key measures and the contextual measures. Clicking on a plus will give you a drop-down that gives all the measures that are available under that, and each of these, in most cases, has a plus beside it where you can click again for the additional breakdowns, as in this case it's for FTE enrollment at the doctoral level. You can see we have it both the total enrollment, the enrollment by ethnicity, and by age of students, and by gender. Now, if you want to get all of that information, you'll click in this top box, and you'll see that all the others are automatically clicked. But if you don't want it for that much information, that is quite a bit, you can just click on the few items that you're interested in. And then you can click on as many of these measures as you want to. We'll expand a contextual measure. And actually, let me just show you as an example with the total head count here. If we want the total head count for the whole, you'll see it there, and you'll get information for all the years. Then on the right-hand side, you'll see you can choose either by systems, by peer groups, or by individual institutions, the institutions that you want data for, and then you have an option of either clicking on Excel or the HTML screen. We'll choose Excel in this case, and you click Generate, and something will happen. There, and I'll open it. And there you see it. Running down the left-hand side, you'll see all the universities, and across the field you'll see all the things that we've chosen, and every year that we have information for, every year we have data for. In most cases we have data for fall 2000 all the way through fall 2007. A few of the measures we don't have every year's data for, but we have them for most. So this is a very, very useful system. In the first few years, we got lots of questions about, isn't there some way to make this data available to us? So this has been designed by our web services folks, and we think they did a great job of making more information readily available to you. We have the mission statements from the university, then the health-related institutions on this site, and then you'll see the heart of the accountability system, the individual sections. In this case, we're just going to choose as an example participation for universities. When the first screen comes up, in each case, it's going to be the statewide data. And you can use the drop-down again on the left-hand side and pick an institution. Once you pick an institution, you have to click the Go button in order to get that institution's data. Now, as we scroll down just a little bit, you'll see the link to the out-of-state peer data that relates to participation. I'm not going to go there right now, but you might be interested in checking that out. And then for each of the years that are displayed, we have additional details that you can click on and get more information about, and then that screen you'll have to exit out of. You'll see that we show the institution's progress over time, and we show their closing the gaps targets. I'll discuss this aspect a little bit more in detail. In this case, we're using the 2010 target, which is the closest one to 2007, and you'll see the percent of that target that the institution is currently meeting. There's some charts there for you to look at, and you'll see in this case they've added a contextual box that explains something about what they thought would be useful and interesting for people who are looking at this data for that institution. And there's the rest of the participation section. It's pretty extensive. You can see in each case the key measures come first and then the contextual measures. If you scroll back up to the top, you have an opportunity to download or print off this information. You can either do it for this specific section, or you can do the complete report for this particular institution. Now, to get to the other sections of accountability for this institution, you can click on the top. And so in this case, if you click Success, you'll see it takes us to Texas State University San Marcos's Success page. Here you'll see more information linked to that. In certain cases, we're trying to add links to our other information that's available on our website to make this more functional. And this is one of the ideas that we have related to the uniform and recruitment report, is to put some kind of a web link here that would take individuals to the uniform recruitment and retention information for that particular institution. We're also intending to do a similar thing for the Star Awards information. If, for instance, Texas State San Marcos had won a Star Award relating to any of these areas, we could have a box up here that would have a link to the Star Award data. And that will allow you, if you're looking at the data and see that an institution has done particularly well in a measure that's important to you and that you think you need help with, you can go to those sites and see what that institution's doing to try to improve their outcomes. And this section, substantially like the one that we just looked at for participation. I won't go to all these sections. Let's see how I'm doing on the time, I guess, okay. And we'll now go back out of this part of accountability and show you that for each of these particular sections, you can find the Closing the Gaps institutional targets for institutions on this page. And when you open this, it'll just have first the universities listed, then the community colleges, and the Texas State Technical Colleges and Lamar schools are mixed in with the community colleges, and the health-related institutions are down at the bottom. So that may be useful information for you when you're trying to decide or figure out what your institution's Closing the Gaps targets are. We talk about these targets at the accountability meetings. We encourage the institutions to report reasonable targets, but to be stretch targets, ones that will require them to do some extra work. And in most cases, from what we hear at those meetings, the institutions have committees on campus that meet and discuss what the targets should be. The targets are updated by the institutions in about November of each year. Okay. And there's the remainder of the accountability sections. They all function in exactly the same way as the participation section that we've just looked at. And to give you some extra information that's not related to accountability, I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about some of the other things that are available on this Texas Higher Ed data site. One thing that might be interesting to you is our regional plan. This is a plan that's produced by the coordinating board every 2 years. This is the most recent plan. You can get to other versions of it if you really want to. It has a lot of data from the Workforce Commission on what's happening in the various areas of the state. And it's a little different take. Usually we see our information by individual institution. This combines all the data for the institutions in a region together. We also have a participation forecast. We do this also every 2 years, and we look out till 2020 to see what we think, if the institutions don't do anything substantially different to draw new students in, what their enrollment would be if everything's still the same. So what we do for this report is examine by county, ethnicity, and gender the students who are attending your institution. Then we update those using the new forecast of population that's produced by the Texas State Data Center. And so this is the enrollment that you would have if you continue to draw in exactly the same way from the population in 2020 as you have drawn from the population from a county in 2007. Before those reports go out, we send them to the institutions and ask for their comments on them. You have down here information on the reporting from the individual institutions, and I won't say any more about that. On this side, we have lots of links, and I'll go to the ones that I think will be the most useful or interesting to you. We have high school to college linkages. Here the information at the top, the first 3 sections, substantially the same. Each time it gets a little bit more specific. So if we use this as an example, we will get to high school students from a particular county who have attended institutions around the state. And we include both the independent institutions as well as the public institutions in this list. So from Palestine High School, they sent students to these colleges, and we only break them out if they sent 5 or more students to an individual institution. Then the remainder of the institution of the students who went on are lumped into these 2 categories, or 3 if they had enough going on to independent institutions. That shows you the number of institutions that individuals went to and that 14 students went on. So in addition to all these who went on to higher ed, 105 of the 187 students who graduated from Palestine High School did not attend higher education. So that might be useful for you if you're trying to come up with tracking of students. And then we have some additional data on how well students are prepared. This is also can be linked to the individual independent school districts at this point. So you would know if you're attracting students primarily from a specific independent school district, you can see the type of preparation that those students have. Also, we have a major link down here to the Texas PK 2016 public education information. We call this TPEER, and it's a site that's developed by both the Texas Education Agency and the Coordinating Board. We both post data there, and it has data on students who are becoming teachers, on lots of other public education topics that might be interesting to you. We have a link for the universities on the number of students who applied to a particular institution, the number who were accepted, and the number who enrolled. That has additional data on the top 10% students who were in those categories. We have graduation rate data. This is the 6-year graduation rate, which is part of the accountability system. But you'll see also, in addition, we have the 10-year graduation rate, and we've run it now for both part-time students and for full-time students who are at the universities, and we do similar things for the community colleges as well. We have a prep online system where you can download information in relative detail about the types of institutions, and they can also get it by level and ethnicity and by the geographic source. You report to us the county that your students are from, or the state or foreign country. That's the information that would be listed in here. So I think I'm running out of time. If you have questions about any of these things. Oh, and one other thing, we have the P16 summit data. This will probably be useful for you too. We had a summit last year on P16 connections. We produced quite a bit of data for that summit, and you'll see all that data listed here. One of the very interesting things is we track a cohort of 7th grade students through higher education. We have the statewide and the regional results there, and we've enhanced those with information from the National Student Clearinghouse to try to track the number of students who went out of state. So that might be something you'd be interested in looking at as well. I see we have a question. Just a moment and I'll read it. UTSA wonders who their accountability reporting person is, and yes, I think you're right, it's Jerry DeZino. If you have other questions on the accountability system, and the fax number that you need to be faxing to is 512-427-6168. If you have other accountability questions, you can either send them in, or if you want to, you're always welcome to contact me. My email is janet.banke, B-E-I-N-K-E, @thecb.state.tx.us. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Mickey Achakos, and I'm really glad to be with you. What I'd like to walk you through, and first let me tell you who I'm with. I'm with Planning and Accountability, and I'm with the newly formed Research and Evaluation section. And I'm here for Robin Sunika, my colleague, who could not be here with us today. She's very ill. So I know enough about evaluation to be dangerous, so I will walk you through this step by step and give you some of the mechanics on how to do some of this evaluation for the URRS. So here's what I'm first going to do. I'm going to give you a theoretical basis for what we're going to be looking at here, and then I'm going to give you an applied and example. So here's what we're looking at. For a local evaluation design, what we have first of all is a goal and various strategies that we're going to use to attain our goal. And the various strategies will be measuring outputs and outcomes. And I'm going to go ahead and define each of these things and come back to this slide. All right, so the goal that you're talking about is basically what is the target? Why are you engaging in this project? What is it that you want to accomplish here? And the strategies are what are the various activities that you're going to engage in as a university to further accomplish this goal or meet your URS target. Okay? Now the next thing I want to draw your attention to is the difference between an output and an outcome. An output is the number of activities and the number of participants that you have participating in that specific activity. And then your outcome is the impact that your participants has on that activity. Okay, so those are two different measures right there. Your measures are the different types of evidence that you're going to collect, whether it's quantitative or qualitative. That indicates whether you're succeeding or maybe perhaps not succeeding at the rate you would like at attaining your goal. And you'll have various different methods of collecting your evidence, whether it's a survey, student records, participation records, things like that. And the stakeholders that we'll be talking about, of course, are all the persons that are impacted by your URS policy. So let me go back to the nice theoretical model that Robin's put together for us. So again, you have your goal or your target that you've put together as your university, as an institution, of what your recruitment and retention strategy is. You have various different programs or strategies you're going to do to try to attain that target. You'll have different outputs that you'll need to measure as well as their outcomes, two different things. So the people that are participating in it as well as their outcomes. And you employ different measures to see if it is actually working. So let me give you a nice example of how this might look. All right. So Robin has developed a nice little grid for us to look at. And for this specific University X is to increase enrollment of Texas residents by 2015, to 22,000 overall and 19,052 Hispanics. So that's very well put. She's also left room down here if you perhaps had other goals for other populations attending your institution. So she's delineated the goal here. And what you will do next then, we'll come back to this slide here. Hang on. Technical difficulties. All right. You'll delineate the different strategies you'll be using to help you meet that goal. And in this example, she's selected a high school university program, a distance learning interactive television program, and a summer housing program. And specifically, including Hispanics targeted in high school in the above programs that are listed right here. So Hispanics will be pulled out of each of these things and measured separately to make sure that not only are they meeting their overall goal, but also meeting their goal of enrolling as many Hispanics as they want to enroll. Okay, next. The outputs that we'll be measuring is the number of students participating in each program or the number of courses offered. Again, these are just counts. They're not measures of success necessarily. They're just counts of people participating. And again, there'll be counts of Hispanics in each program from the targeted high schools. And then we come to the outcomes next. And we'll be taking a look at students from these programs, the increase in enrollment. Hopefully, in this, she has set up 3 to 4% per year, as well as Hispanic enrollment 3 to 4% per year. The measures that Robin has set up has been comparing baseline data of participants as well as their demographics and academics, participant surveys, using pre and post surveys, program success data, how is it working, and tracking all the participants into and through college. So these measures will help to count the outputs as well as the outcomes for each of these students. So Robin earlier provided us with a lovely chart of your goal listed here as well as what's going on actually, so you can measure the gap between the two and where you might need to adjust depending on the total population or a subpopulation. And what you would do in this applied scenario then is just repeat the whole process for your retention strategies. Okay? So the goal of this then is to improve your programs if they're not working as well as they could, and to increase efforts once you pinpoint where you need to increase your efforts, and to shift your focus if you're not reaching the right audiences, and also to keep your goals clearly in mind once you set your targets. So, all right, do we have questions so far that have come in?
Yes, but not related to.
Not related to this? Okay. All right.
At this point, we would like to open it up for questions. We reached the midpoint of our webcast. Again, feel free to fax in your questions or simply send an email to the address on your screen. We do have a computer standing by to address the questions regarding to either accountability, evaluation, or other questions that may come to mind during our colleagues' presentation. So at this point, feel free to fax or email your questions into us so they may be addressed before we continue on. Thank you.
Podcast as far as the PowerPoint slides being blurry. We are working on that issue, so bear with us, and we will provide a copy of the slides after the presentation. They'll be available on our website, and we'll email them out also. Hi, my name is Natalie Coffey, and I'm a coordinating board staffer, and I'm going to talk to you about, just reiterate what Dr. Glenda Barron talked about in her presentation when she talked about what the requirements are of the URS. As you know, by law, the coordinating board has to collect a URS, or a Uniform Recruitment and Retention Strategy Plan, from each institution, public institution of higher education, and institutions are required by law to submit those to us. This year, the URS will be available online in July 2008 and due on December 1, 2008. Some examples of recruitment strategies or programs that you might want to consider for your URS include application assistance programs, partnerships with high-need public high schools, and we received a question regarding those, the definition of high-need public high schools, and those are those with a college-going rate below 50% and or a 75% socioeconomically disadvantaged student population. Retention strategies that you might want to include in your URS include tutoring and mentoring programs, academic support programs, or financial aid to needy first-generation college students.
This is Mark Lopez again. Just wanted to thank you all before we continue for those questions that were solicited over the past week. We tried our best to incorporate your concerns and questions into our presentation. By all means, if we are not addressing any of your issues or matters that your institution is facing, please again feel free to send us an email or a fax. As you'll see in front of you, to continue on the review, beginning for academic year 2008, institutions were charged to provide a wider audience in conjunction with their strategies. What we were finding in the past, from past reports specifically, is that institutions were reading a small population that were significantly expensive, if you will. So one thing that we really wanted to take into consideration for the 07-08 reporting cycle was to ensure that institutions were reaching a wider audience of students on their respective campuses. In addition, that their strategy must have a history of 3 years of success, and finally, that they are in fact aligned with their Closing the Gap institutional figures. This next slide here is the proposal review that was due on this past November. What was done was that the coordinating board put together a working group of staffers that reviewed submitted proposals. One thing that we found, as was iterated, that institutions were not, in fact, aligning their strategies with their target numbers, nor did we find that institutions were reaching that wider audience that was that we need to see happen. What we had found that there were a handful of institutions that were, in fact, making significant strides, but as I conveyed earlier, there were a significant number that were needing additional assistance. So we want to ensure that we can best assist you to the best of our ability and to ensure that our proposals are up to speed for the 07-08 academic year. So next steps and time frames, what we're looking at here, we are going to put together an advisory group of experts that can, in fact, join us here at the coordinating board to review newly submitted proposals for the 07-08 cycle, to ensure that not only are we reaching a wider audience of students, but also that institutions are aligning their URS with their institutional targets. We're going to push more of the incorporation of accountability into the accountability system with the URS, as Janet mentioned, that we are working on a link that will be placed, on the actual accountability system for institutions to view not only their reports but also view several best practices throughout the field, as well as to analyze peer institutions or even aspiring peers that may have similar demographics or similar size in numbers as far as that is concerned. Additionally, we are planning to conduct site visits here towards the end of the spring semester with those institutions that require additional support, where we're putting a team together to come out to the institution to work with you closely to ensure that your institution is taking the proper measures to reach success on your campus. And lastly, we are going to require institutions to resubmit proposals for the 07-08 academic year. That will take place on June the 1st. We will review the proposals with our advisory group as well as staffers here at the coordinating board to best provide feedback to institutions to ensure that their 07-08 final report that will be due in December is up to speed. What we have done here in this next slide is put together a proposal template for each of the recruitment and retention strategies. We received feedback from the field indicating, is there a rubric, is there guidelines that institutions could follow to submit their proposals. So what we have done is put together a template for institutions to follow regarding their proposals. As you will see, we are looking at the name and then, of course, the type of strategies that Natalie had mentioned, whether it is a financial aid program, an outreach initiative, a partnership with the local high school, the cost of the program, as well as the funding source is concerned, the number of students served, as well as the demographic information to the best of your ability, as well as program details and description. Next, how will this strategy that you are selecting align with the institutional as well as the state numbers? And lastly, our evaluation design. As we've seen a template for you all to follow regarding the recruitment and retention piece, we were asking to submit that as well as your uniform recruitment retention strategy proposal is concerned. And you'll see here the retention template as well. So again, we want to open it up for questions from the field. Feel free to send us an email regarding the accountability system, the evaluation design and template, as well as the URS in general. We would like to hear your feedback or any concerns that you have experienced in the past or currently challenges that you are facing on your institution so we can provide some support for your campus. Again, we have tried our best to incorporate those questions from the field that were sent to us into our presentation here today. If we did not get to those questions, by all means, send us an email or a fax.
Hi, this is Janet again. I thought it might be useful to emphasize some retention pieces of information that we have. One of them is part of the accountability system. This is true for universities, for the TSTCs and Lamars and for the community colleges. As part of the success measures, we have 1- and 2-year retention rates for students. So once you go on to the site for an individual institution, your institution or another one, and scroll down the page quite a little bit, you get dizzy, at least I do. And here we have it. We call it persistence now. We've been told retention's not the term that's used these days. But in this case, you'll see for first-time undergraduate students at this particular institution, we follow them for 1 year, and so it'll be the entering cohort for each of these years that are shown, and then they're followed into the next year. And right below that, we have the 2-year retention rate. So you can see how for any institution, how their retention falls off the first year and how much it changes between the first and second year. We report this information by ethnicity, so you can target where the discrepancy seems to be the most extreme. And also we show for those students who are retained, this is some piece that maybe you can't get for your particular institution just from the information you have on campus. If your students went to another public or private institution in the state. So you'll see in this case, for this institution, 59.4% of its fall 2000 class stayed at the same institution, but 23.8% of those students, this is the entering cohort, actually went on to another institution in Texas. So we consider that a success for your institution as well, because you were able to prepare your students so that they wanted to go on and pursue their higher education. We do have some additional information for community colleges on the main website, the data website for the coordinating board. And it's under this topics by institution type category. And we have a student migration report here. And if you'll click on it, a message. We'll ignore that. And now I'll try to make it big enough for you to see. So we have, in this case, we have a little bit more information because we have it by the type of student that they were, whether they were academic, technical, or tech prep. And then the rest of the information is quite similar to the other site. We show where the graduates went from fall 2005 to fall 2006, and then we'll see those students who didn't graduate but went on. Then you'll see core curriculum completers, and these are in each case exclusive of the other pieces of information so that they're not duplicated within here. So for those types of students, you'll see where they have, whether they've moved on. That's it.
Thank you, Janet.
You're welcome.
A few questions that were raised and issues in the past that we have experienced, that there has been a turnover at the institutional level regarding URS committees, URS contact individuals, and we are still experiencing this at the institutional level. We received a comment regarding that they are new to the URS, and we know that you are not alone. There are several individuals, as mentioned. We are aware of this information, and we want to let you know as a field that any questions, any concerns that you may have, please do not hesitate to ask us regarding the strategy, regarding assistance in identifying strategies on your institution, as well as identifying evaluation measures, as well as assistance with the accountability system. One of the questions that was asked is that with the strategy that has been selected by an institution, it is difficult for you to pinpoint cost as well as students reached with the programs that you identified. Again, it was difficult for that strategy to identify student information as well as costs are concerned. Natalie, did you want to respond to that, please? The question was that it was difficult for the representative to identify program costs as well as students' information.
For the participant breakdown list, okay, for the participant breakdown list, we'll be looking for student identifiers, and we'll be looking for the cost of the program, the number of students served, and the funding source for the program for both your recruitment and your retention strategy.
Thank you. Another question that we just received was, how will feedback be accomplished? I'm suspecting that is back to the institution itself regarding their strategy. Again, we are going to be soliciting an advisory group from the field as well as colleagues here at the coordinating board to assess strategy proposals here in June. We will then provide feedback back to the institutions, therefore, shortly after each of the strategies are assessed and evaluated. We just received a fax question. Will we be able to get a recorded copy of the video material and hard copy of the visual materials? Yes, thank you for that question. Actually have that here in my notes that we will be sending the PowerPoint out to the field, out to the URS contact individuals that we have in our database, as well as the recorded webcast will be up in 2 days' time after the webcast is complete. It will be online at the coordinating board's web page.
Mark, I have an email question. This is Natalie Coffey. During my presentation, I mentioned some retention and recruitment strategy examples that you might want to use in your reports. Those were just examples. Those are not requirements. Those are just examples of large-scale programs that you might want to implement on your campus. Thank you.
We would like to thank you again for tuning in today for our webcast. We have not received additional questions or faxes, so we are going to conclude today's webcast. Again, my name is Mark Lopez, and I can be reached at mark.lopez@thecb.state.tx.us. I am the Director of Recruitment and Retention here at the Coordinating Board, and please, by all means, feel free to call me or contact me via email with any concerns or any issues that you have with the URS. We are here to provide assistance and to ensure that institutions are meeting their target numbers and, to the best of ability, provide technical support to you and your campus. So again, thank you for tuning in today to our first webcast here at the Coordinating Board. Have a great day.